today's B stream, besides a couple of breaks here, has been a really, efficient seems to be the best word to describe it. A really efficient day today, we've had 2 2-0s in a row. But this one, I think, sort of similar to our last series with Raynor and Lambo, matches 2 players who I think are somewhat close in skill level. Despite being maybe from very different, like I don't usually pair these players together. Like Raynor and Serral, I'm like, they're top tier players. They're very tight.
Lambo and Hero Marine.
Hero Marine and Showtime. I'm like, those 2 guys go together. These 2 players, not ones I usually pair, but I think it's going to be a hell of a match. Shall we go ahead and introduce them?
Yeah, go ahead. My camera is on you. Because in the top right-hand corner of Eternal Empire Ladder Edition, here's the French Protoss player in the red, representing Cascade Gaming. It's DnS.
And DnS's opponent here, over on the bottom left-hand side from Starcom Gaming, it's our blue Russian Terran player named... No, not... Did I say Russian?
Yeah, I did.
That's not what I meant to say. Sorry, guys. Yeah, he's Russian.
Yeah.
It's BratOK. Grant, let me tell you something. And this is a mental block that I have while casting players. I confuse Russian and Ukrainian players.
Me too, all the time.
More than any other series of players, and I don't know why. It just seems to be a mental block for me. There seems to be a great bunch of Western European players who are really like carrying the flag of Russian and Ukrainian and all those sort of Western European countries that have amazing esports talent in them. And for some reason, they just blend together in my head. I don't know what it is. So I always get a little nervous when I introduce a player from Western Europe.
Yeah, I'm the exact same. I'm always like, I never get Hellraiser wrong because obviously of Twitter when they had IEM or DreamHack Kiev. Is it DreamHack or IEM? One of the 2. When they had the event and he was like super on it, I now know he's Ukrainian because he's Ukrainian, you know? He's patriotic. Right. But some of the others I get wrong all the time. But no, BratOK from Russia. DnS, Mr. Adrien Bouet. He's from Le Francais. He is one of my boys, a really, really lovely guy, but a player who hasn't been in a run of form I would have expected him to be in. He's typically very, very good. I'd say one of the better, one stage, even arguably one of the best European Protoss players, but he's not been able to click it together for a couple of months, a couple of events, as he has 5 workers in gas. There we go. He is going for a Stargate this game, so maybe, just maybe, the magical Mystery Tour of Void Rays can bring it back for him.
You know, it's really funny. I was just following that Reaper earlier with my camera, and we can see that BratOK is clearly aware of the current meta with Protoss players, checking everywhere for a proxied Stargate. A lot of people have been complaining these last couple days, Grant, you know, Void Rays are too strong. How do you beat these Void Rays? It reminds me of when, when any major unit gets a buff, and the immediate complaint is always, oh, there's no way to beat this. How do you beat it when they get up to 15 Void Rays? And the answer is always, you don't let them get to 15 Void Rays. Like, just scout, and it's okay. And that's what BratOK is doing, being very cautious there, scouting in, and he does make that Reaper into the main base. So now he sees that he's up against a Stargate play, and he should see this Phoenix pop out, actually. Oh, I think he just missed the Phoenix, actually. So he might have, but you can always tell in the Stargate, so he knows what's coming out.
Yeah, so it is going to be a fair few Phoenixes. We're now looking at the second being developed here. I imagine we will see 3 or 4 as well as there was an Oracle, right? Did I imagine that?
He started an Oracle, cancelled it, and went to Phoenix instead. Yeah.
Okay. Robo going down here as well for DnS, the other side of the map. It looks like Cyclones are the name of the game. Very, very safe, especially if there were to be Void Rays. Very good. I think Cyclones are going to see a bit of a resurgence. Actually, it's Mech. Well, I suck.
Well, of course. It's BratOK.
Of course
it's BratOK. It's going to be Cyclones. And no, you're absolutely correct. Everything you said was right, Grant. Cyclones are a great choice against that Stargate opener. And honestly, right now, there's a 50-50 chance that Protoss players are going to go Stargate, not just because of the Void Rays upgrade or update, because the Stargate is still one of the most pliable, one of the most flexible builds that Protoss players can do. Oracles, great. Mass Phoenix, great. Scrubbing some Void Rays, great. Want to transition to carriers late game? Having that first Stargate, great. It's one of those builds that just seems to work all the time. And with DnS grabbing this early third base here, his build looks to be really solid. And I don't blame BratOK for getting those Cyclones out early. And he, as you said, he's going mech. So he's all in good shape for right now.
And I see DnS as a solid macro Protoss player. One thing I am interested in is how much has he scouted? Okay, he's flying into the main right now at the south side, just getting turned around. Going to pick off a Widow Mine first of all. Okay, seeing this many Cyclones, he now definitely knows it is mech. It's going to be chased away just outside of the third here at BratOK. DnS's probe count, though, really starting to get up there. He's still producing a couple at a time, and that's soon to be 3 at a time, I imagine. We can see here Twilight Counter being added on. He has moved into Robo and did produce at least 1 Immortals. There we go. At the bottom side here, BratOK has started producing that mag-filled accelerator. I like what DnS is doing. He didn't overcommit to Stargate, and what he is getting, which is going to be Twilight Counter, I imagine Charge, is very good against this. Charge and Blink, if you get both, very good against sort of mass Cyclone, if you can find flanks. Robotics Bay, okay.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct here, and this is a great read from DnS here. Obviously, BratOK is known very widely as a mech player, especially against Protoss, one of the Terrans who is least afraid to go with mech. And what's really awesome about BratOK is usually with Terran players, the eternal question with Terran players is mech versus bio, right? With BratOK, the question is usually more battle mech or a more traditional tank-based mech style. And right now, it looks like BratOK favoring that battle mech, but of course, always can transition a little bit later. So, and now with all those Cyclones in the field, DnS absolutely knows sacrificing 1 Phoenix to get a read that his opponent is going straight battle mech, at least for now, is a really good read. And that's why we saw that Robo Bay go down. We should see a second Robo coming down soon. And I imagine a lot of Disruptors in the field. Disruptor shots, not only great at destroying Hellions and Cyclones, but also good at forcing them out of position. And when Cyclones are out of position, they're useless.
We do have a bit of a move out coming here from BratOK. We can see it is actually going to be extended thermal lights and Colossus play. Now, I don't mind this with a lot of charge zealots. This can be good because you force the Cyclones to micro so heavily that the Colossus can drop off quite quickly from the lock-on spell. But they are very, very vulnerable if you make a mistake. Magfield Accelerator has finished. They have turned on those headlights. And this is still a little bit of a scary push for DnS. He has some stuff, but charge isn't done. Okay, that's a lot of Immortals. Holy Jesus.
That's a lot of Immortals.
But no upgrades yet, as opposed to the +1 armor, which is very strange. You don't see that too often from a Terran first. Here from BratOK.
Because remember, Cyclones don't benefit from that +1
You're completely
vehicle
right.
attacks. So I think that's why he's going for +1 armor. It's not something we usually see, but I kind of like it from BratOK, actually. He knows he's going mass Cyclone. He knows they're going to lock on. That's a spell. It doesn't benefit from +1. It makes decent sense. And BratOK even leaving a few Widow Mines out of the field, just to not only keep an eye, not only to destroy the army of DnS as it moves out, but to keep an eye on those move outs as well. But here we go.
Very, very nice wall, but look at it get absolutely decimated here by those Cyclones. That lock-on spell doing so much damage. Double Colossi production has begun, and it's quick to have double Colossi production too. Usually you throw your second Robo down as your fourth goes down, but DnS knows he needs units more than anything else. He definitely has the economy and really wants a fourth base, but he knows he has to, there we go, deal with this push, and this probe is not in for a good day. What? Hello? Okay, there we go.
He made like 80% of the way. That reminds me of like an arcade game, one of those tower defense games from way back in the day. Like, how far can your little probe make it before it's absolutely blasted by those Cyclones? More warp-ins coming in from DnS. Archon's getting scrubbed, and the Archon's going to be very valuable for soaking up damage and getting some splash at the front. One of the problems we'll often see, Grant, with these players who do like mass Colossus builds, especially at lower levels or maybe less talented players, less established players, is they'll build too many Colossi, right? They get 5, 6 on the map, and they're like, oh, I've got Colossi, nothing can beat me. But then there's nothing between the Colossi and the Cyclones, and then the Colossi just die instantaneously. DnS maintaining a really nice balance between those gateway units and those Colossi. I like his position so far. BratOK grabbing a fourth base, though, as well. Staying pretty active here. The worker count, identical right now, Grant. 68 to 68.
Yeah, My concern right now for DnS is I do think if a Terran can get maxed with mech and add in Liberators and get all of the upgrades rocking and rolling and things like that, it's very difficult for a non-Stargate Protoss to break. Tanks are going to be able to zone away so much of the army. Zealots will absolutely melt under Blue Flame Hellions and / or Hellbats. And I know there were a couple of Phoenixes, but I really do like Stargate into his position. Now, I trust DnS is very prepared for this. He is still only playing off single Forge, which is, again, maybe he could have afforded to go double Forge. You know that the mech player is typically going to play a little bit slower than your standard bio. He's not dropping. He's not everywhere. So I think DnS could have maybe looked for some options, but right now DnS is up in supply by a frick ton, and he is moving in.
Yeah, he really is. The upgrade's going to be slightly in favor of BratOK, as you said, but DnS really taking an aggressive position, which I think makes sense. As you said, very difficult to break a Terran player who's gone mech, who's stuck consistently with those upgrades, unless you go for mass Stargate into Tempests and Carriers. And look at this. I hope chat has got their griddles ready, because we got a fleet bacon coming down for DnS.
Yeah, and I like this. +1 air weapons beginning as well. As you said, that bacon is on the way. Second Stargate coming in. I believe that's just a second.
Correct.
Yeah, we should see a third in not too much time as the 5th base does go down too. +3 ground weapons on the way as well. So we should still see like a good amount of Archons being added to the fray. Charge Zealots don't really lose a lot of value here because they are so cheap and they can force micro out of the mech army. You can't just lock on with a Cyclone and stand still on the Charge Zealots because Cyclones are squishy as frick. There we go, second Stargate being added. I don't know if we'll see Carriers or Tempests. There we go, that's what I was thinking. Tempests are going to be very good for sieging up on this army. But for now, we have a bit of a trade-off supply coming as DnS charging in.
Absolutely, these Archons tearing through that front row of tank. The charge slots getting destroyed, as you said, but they will disappear very quickly. And once those charge slots are gone, you got to move backwards just a little bit because there's no distance between your Colossi and the rest of the army. But more charge slots coming in. The Warp Prism being used by DnS very expertly there to micro some of the Colossi back, not eating a lot of damage. And behind this, he's got his 3rd and 4th Stargate just finishing up, and the Tempest production going to begin in earnest here very shortly. I think DnS just applying a bit of light pressure right now to make sure BratOK doesn't move out, so he can build up that scary number of Tempests and Carriers before pushing back out.
And this is really cute. He's forcing lock-ons onto the Colossi and instantly loading up into the Prism, but the Prism, see ya, is going to end up going down, and that now means no more lock-ons. These tanks are doing a lot of damage here as well, and you can see the front line starting to disappear. There's so much left here. Goodbye Immortals, and that means 3 lock-ons for days. Goodbye Colossus, even a little Bernie flank coming in here. And now we can see the Tempest come in, but they don't have any peel. They don't have any protection. And they are going to go down super fast. And DnS all of a sudden taking a really bad trade.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Look at the army supply tab. You can see that was looked like a fairly even fight. But as you said, DnS losing a lot of high-tech units there, and that's one of the benefits of a player like BratOK who's going for this battle mech build. Sure, he's mixed in a couple tanks, but battle mech is really great because look at his production tab, 3 Cyclones at a time, scrubbing in a ton of Hellions as well later in the game, I'm sure. A little bit easier to rebuild. It's almost like Bio Light or like a Ling Bane style, where as soon as one army dies, there's another one right behind it, especially with a player like BratOK who's already on 5 bases, working on that planetary fortress and just keeping up with the Joneses with DnS on the other side. Again, the worker count slightly in DnS's favor and the income slightly in DnS's favor, but BratOK still keeping with this game and his army supply still looking pretty decent. DnS, of course, more carriers on the way, and he's finally getting up to a decent count of carriers. Look at this Protoss army, Grant.
Oh, and there's no answer for carriers right now. 4 production is too late. It has begun, but we're looking at the first one being built now solo, and the Cyclones, if they lock on incorrectly to an interceptor or something, that cooldown is still quite long, so carriers can be a very good answer here. And you know what carriers are really good against? Siege tanks. Because siege tanks can't look up, they're like pigs. Is that a thing? I think that's a thing.
I believe that's a thing. As opposed to chickens who apparently drown in the rain because they'll look up in the rain and they can... I've heard, I don't know if that's actually true.
You made that up! 4 carriers being produced at a time as Creighton Olsen makes things up about chickens. We see more and more Nexi being taken here by DnS, who now has a 36 supply lead, and is still mainly in workers. He really has a very strong economy. Advanced ballistics on the way here from BratOK, as he's also getting those air upgrades. More force coming in, and the carriers have been maybe a little bit slow to actually move out, and it looks like BratOK is going to be okay for now.
You know, this is one of those really interesting moments where I think about 5 minutes ago, DnS was planning this transition because he moved out very aggressively, as we see BratOK, of course, trying to counter pressure now. But DnS, with that move out where he lost a lot of his units earlier, we kind of called it and said, oh man, this seems like a mistake. He's lost an awful lot of units. But now looking back, I think what he was just trying to do is buy himself a little more time, scare BratOK, and make sure he had the opportunity to get up to this carrier count, because he's now on 5 bases, working on the thing. His carrier count, very terrifying. These tanks sieging up, but against what, Grant? Against what?
Yeah, the carriers right now have completely free reign. You can see one Cyclone got a lock on, and if the Cyclones can lock onto the carriers, they do a lot of damage. You should see a carrier disappear pretty quickly, but there's so many Interceptors doing so much damage. The 4 is going to go down. The Interceptors just chasing down these 4s as well. This is so expensive here for BratOK, who's now down 40 supply. He's in a lot of trouble. It's all army supply. Liberators, okay. Sure, they do decent AoE damage, but this is a lot of carriers, a lot of Interceptors with 4 carriers being built at a time. I'm a little bit scared right now for BratOK.
This is one of those games that I feel like the outcome was decided 5 or 6 minutes ago. You know, both Thors and carriers are units where you've got to get up to a critical mass before they're scary. Is 1 Thor scary? Absolutely not. Are 10 Thors scary? Terrifying. And now we see finally a couple extra Thors going up, some great Widowmine splash damage on those Interceptors, actually. I don't know how many Interceptors just died, but it was a crap ton. Look at that unit's lost tab. It looks like 73 Interceptors have gone down this game already from these carriers. That's going to slow down DnS a little bit and buy BratOK a bit of time. Oh, hang on just one moment, Grant. Going to buy BratOK a bit of time as DnS engages back in. DnS saying there's a bit of lag. I'm a bit worried.
Who's a referee? Trader school.
Who else,
we are back. So hopefully that lag is sorted. I'm not feeling the lag. It doesn't seem to be stuttery for me at all, so hopefully that is just a very small issue that will go away quickly. We can see now the 4 count is very high, and the Interceptor count may be a little low. SCV's not here to repair. 4's firing, just spinning around in circles, trying to track down these Interceptors, but I'm starting to be a little bit concerned here. There are so many carriers, and with more and more being added, this is nice. Liberator getting 13 probes and evening up that count slightly here from BratOK. And BratOK actually all of a sudden is even in supply.
Those are some really interesting plays that have been going for BratOK right now. A couple different things I want to point out is one that these Widow Mines on the ground. These Widow Mines on the ground are actually being incredibly damaging, not just to the carriers, but the Interceptors as well. I would never have thought of Widow Mines as like a counter to Interceptors, but they're getting some amazing splash damage on those clumped up Interceptors as they're attacking. And again, this is buying more and more time for BratOK to sort of shorten the gap between the mass carriers on the other side and getting himself up now to 9 Thors, working on 5 Thors at a time now. He's going to have more Thors than DnS will have carriers, and both of those are unit compositions where once they snowball, they're both terrifying. I think this last fight, Grant, is going to come down to a lot of positioning and a lot of spell usage if it comes
I agree.
to that.
We're seeing a lot of Disruptors come in, and I'm actually not certain the damage a Disruptor or how many Disruptor shots it takes to kill a 4, but I'm a little bit concerned that it's like a lot. 4's very, very tanky, so with this Mass Force Liberator style, I'm kind of starting to like BratOK's position a little bit more. He still really hasn't been punished economically. He never had a lot of workers, but he's also like, he's not dead. He's still getting very close to max. He has no bank, sure, whereas DnS is starting to bank quite heavily. And even adding on things like the Dark Shrine. Upgrades, we're looking relatively even across the board. DnS having a very slight lead. But this is a sketchy army right now for DnS to push into.
Yeah, really unusual compositions on both sides here. We see BratOK going away from those Widow Mines that helped him so much against the Liberators. I'm still getting over that. But the Liberator against the Interceptors, pardon me. But the Liberators are now out for BratOK. 4, I believe, on the field right now, adding on 2 more, and they're going to help to zone out these Disruptors. The Disruptors obviously need to get a lot closer to the Thors than they would want to, because of course the Thors can get on top and destroy them in about 2 or 3 hits. So they've got to get as far away from the Thors as they can. Unfortunately, with the Liberators out, it's going to make it very difficult. And oh no, a couple transferring probes up here on the north side. These are losses DnS can't afford to take right now as BratOK's economy is getting better and better. Oof.
And the StarCraft player in me loves to see that many probes get killed, even as a Protoss player. I imagine it's me. We have the 1-4 run by over here at the 11 o'clock base. It's surprisingly effective. If this base goes down, I will laugh so hard. How do you patch up? How do you push through this? There's missile turrets going up, there's Widow Mines, there's Liberators, with advanced ballistics sieging up in the area. Oh my god, is this 1-4 going to kill a base? There's a recall! He recalled to it!
Yep, recalls to the base to save it. That Thor chunking down a lot of the energy. That does mean the Liberators have to re-siege up, and that's going to slow things down just a little bit here. Missile turrets buying BratOK just a bit of time, but DnS going to go ahead and engage anyway. The Thor's not target firing the carriers, though. Look at him spinning through these Interceptors, Grant. The carrier's going to tear through this.
Yeah, and I was wrong about the Disruptor damage. It did a heck of a lot more than I anticipated, about 33% of a Thor's life, and that means with that many disruptors, Thors were absolutely melting. BratOK dropped 60 supply in a heartbeat, and now he's trying to add on more and more Thors, but the target fire, I don't know why he thought interceptors were the right idea. If you kill a carrier, the interceptors eventually bugger off. So BratOK right now needs to regroup, he needs to remax. We should see DnS try and gain a little bit of ground here. That's exactly what he's going to do. Move up to this high ground, not allow his opponent to take the space. This is definitely not happening. And as we get into the post 20-minute mark, this now becomes a game of back and forth, a seesaw, a tug of war in which ground is so important. We see these purification novas going off, actually not really managing to connect. Thors are firing, but there's just nothing left. 100 supply deficit. DnS takes game 1.
Yeah, no question about that. You're usually right in a TVZ or a PVZ rather. Oh my God, let me try one more time here. A PVT actually. After about the 20-minute mark, it does become this seesaw, this ground game that you've got to play where you want to control zones, because if you can control a zone, you can expand behind it and then use that economic advantage to push forward and trade even inefficiently to get into what you want to get into. Unfortunately, of course, DnS just having too much there. Those carriers destroying those Thors, and BratOK, I'll be honest, not taking a very good fight on the top side there. Those Thors not target firing down the carriers, and as you said, the disruptors getting a fabulous trade there. A really good fight from DnS, and I'm excited to see game 2 though, because BratOK obviously making mech look so viable.
Yeah, I definitely think if I'm BratOK in this game now, I'm looking more for a mech timing instead of going hyper late game. DnS has shown if he can get to that air stage of the late game, he's going to be very strong, he's going to be solid. And that's, you know, a bit of a problem for Terrans to deal with. It's something you see very often. Very late game Terrans cannot beat very late game Protoss without like ghosts and nukes and stuff.
Right, right.
But hopefully this game we see something a little bit different from BratOK. I'd like to see this go to a game 3. That was a great game. It's nice to finally have one go longer than 10 minutes, let alone 20. We now move on to Golden Wall, Creighton also.
Man, you know, again, I think we say it every time we're on this map, Grant. A map that players don't seem to like a whole lot. Even casual players struggle with the complexity of Golden Wall and the weird risk analysis that you have to do with that southern side of the map blocked off. Tough for players, but amazing for viewers and casters, because this map always has the unique pregnancy of having amazing matches coming out. I'm so excited to see what these players can go for.
Do you say this map is pregnant?
Pregnant in the sense that it's pregnant with possibility, which is one of the original terms, one of the original uses of the adjective. Yeah, if you say something is pregnant, it generally means like it just has potential for something exciting to happen. It's one of the best words you can use in an unusual way to confuse co-casters during a professional StarCraft class. Grant, highly recommend it.
In the bottom left, representing Cascade Gaming, he is the red Protoss player from France. It's DnS.
And his opponent. See, that was a pregnant pause, Grant, where the pause there had a lot of possibility with what could come next. On the far right-hand side, our Russian Terran player meching it happen in game 1. Let's see if he can make it work in game number 2. From Starcom Gaming in Russia, it's BratOK.
So, I do expect BratOK to play mech once again. Golden Wall, not a terrible map for it, specifically a quite traditional style of mech. Hopefully we can see something interesting coming out here. We do see the standard opening here from BratOK, nothing unexpected. DnS going for a very quick scout. Meanwhile, he is going gate, probably cyber expand here.
Just a quick note there on DNS's scouting pattern. Really, really smart from DnS. More and more players are beginning to mine out this backside of Golden Wall, just sort of to change, as I said, the risk analysis on this map, to spread their risk down to the south side of the map and hopefully trick their opponent into not scouting, into not pressuring, and getting a base down here absolutely for free. So really wise of DnS with that scouting probe to go in and check not once, but twice or even 3 times here, to make sure that BratOK is not mining out these rear minerals, to make sure they're still intact, and that allows DnS to really focus on the north side of the map here, expanding to the traditional location, and then keeping all of his defense, shield batteries, and everything on the north side of the map. So really great opener here from DnS. BratOK choosing not to scout at all.
The probe as well, going down to 5 hit points, but surviving is very nice. We do see the cyber before Nexus here, very safe from BratOK, from DnS. BratOK, on the other hand, Reaper expand. I'm interested as to when he takes his gases. That's really the be all and end all what we're going to see. We're still seeing him with 3-on-1 gas, no second gas taken yet. We should see the first factory go down right about Meow. And that should be a pretty... Yep, there we go. And that's all pretty normal so far. We see Reaper, Marine, we should see add-on now, probably Tech Lab. Going to see a bunker as well, very safe here from... So it's going for a second Marine, okay. Very, very safe here in case we do see that Adept coming straight across the field, which is going to be the case. BratOK not wanting to take any damage, not wanting to risk anything going wrong with his economy just yet. Gas taken, Tech Lab going down over on the barracks as well. And we see a Twilight Council here from DnS, so mixing it up from game 1.
Yeah, I like that. You know, all those things you pointed out BratOK doing, if I can just make a note, I think that's because he didn't scout. He still hasn't scouted. BratOK is not sending units across the map. He's got no vision on DNS's side of the map, and that's the price you have to pay if you're going to go for a non-scouter opener, especially in the era of Void Rays. You can't let yourself be surprised by a proxy Stargate, by even a proxy Robo, any other traditional cheese methods, I guess. The Adept's going to sneak in here, but of course they won't make it to the main base and shouldn't finish that shade. Oh, they are going to finish the shade straight into the natural here. BratOK going to lose a few units there as his Reaper finally moving across the map to get a scout off for the first time this game. Going to see that Twilight Council and the Robo.
No Dark Shrine or anything suspicious going down here. This is going to be Blink Aggression. How many gateways are we currently looking at? We are looking at just the one, right? Just one. Is it the next sort of big tell for DNS is how many gateways he goes up to? Are we going to see a parting S4 gate blink, or is it just going to be 3 gate into a quicker third? So far, no gateways being added. Very, very macro play. Very nice control from BratOK. You really don't expect to get a probe this late. 2 more gateways added. If he gets another probe, I will. Okay. Rip. So it is just looking like it's going to be 3 gate blink with a third at about the 4:45, 4:30 mark. We should see DNS looking for that relatively soon. BratOK on the other side is adding on an eBay. He's adding on a second barracks. He's playing bio, a third barracks.
That's right. He's going bio this game. A bit of a difference here from last game. I think both of us expecting him to try mech again. As you said, Golden Wall, a decent map for mech. We see no indication, by the way, of activity on the south side of this map at all. Neither player mining out either expansion or either set of mineral patches, which does mean there's much less area to control, and that really increases the power of mech. You got to think of the tank area of effect, the tank splash damage, or the tank zone control, rather, as like a percentage of the map. And if the whole bottom half of the map is not in play, tanks, Thors, slow-moving units going to be a lot more valuable in this matchup. So it's a little surprising to see BratOK choosing to still go for bio, even though the bottom half of this map is not in play yet. But I'm excited to see his control here. So far, standard timings everywhere for BratOK, just being very cautious with our openers. And this one looking like it has the potential again to go into long game as DNS sticking on those 3 gateways, not going to go for super aggressive blink.
We haven't seen a third CC go down yet, to my knowledge. No third CC just yet. So that is a little bit late here from BratOK. Terran can afford it a bit later. But he is starting to gear up maybe for an aggressive push with Stim and +1. He's not moved out yet, which is slightly disconcerting if he were to go for a push. He has been scouted a bit, but not a lot. He's really not got many workers. I think we are going to see a hefty commitment to a move out quite soon here. Worker production has stopped BratOK as well. He's only got 38 to the 50 of his opponent. I think if BratOK goes, he's certainly in a position here to maybe find some damage, but he's not going.
I think he will go soon. The only weakness right now in BratOK's build is that he just finished up that Stargate, the first medevac, about halfway out, and that means his stim is relatively useless. Here we do see him getting ready to move out with this army. Of course, the Phoenixes see the army. The Observer's going to see it as well, and now these Blink Stalkers from DNS in perfect position to do exactly what Blink Stalkers are built to do against bio, which is harass, harass, harass. He forces an early stim out of BratOK, and even though BratOK does snipe one of the Stalkers, you might be like, oh, nice pickup from BratOK. He wasted a stim here, and again, 1 medevac. These Marines now 3/4 the health that they had before.
And look where the tanks have had to siege up. When you are going for a tank push like this, you want your tanks sieged up on the bottom of the natural ramp, not on your half of the map. Every time these tanks have to siege up, it's another 5-6 seconds on the push added on. And right now, all BratOK is concentrating on is this push. DnS is just going to make units. You can see he's getting another gateway. He's getting immortals, which are phenomenal against these tank pushes. He's not really added on many batteries, but he does have a couple. And look at this army. It's massive here for DnS.
Absolutely. Now, don't get us wrong, guys. This is still anybody's game. BratOK with tanks in a really good position here. The army supply is dead even, and here we go. DnS going to go ahead and jump on top of this.
Oh.
Tanks firing everything. The Stalkers blinking on a tank fire, though. Still huge shots from those siege tanks, but it looks like DnS going to clean this up with no problem.